That's another beautiful day here in Qatar as Andy and I welcome you back to the Grey Lounge, his lounge. Those who have been with us from Programme 1 know that we were previously on the balcony where, as I look outside, Andy, it still looks very attractive and as though it might be quite enjoyable, but it's a little hot.
It's a little on the hot side right now, yes.
So, an anniversary, grateful to the Daily Mirror for this. May the 14th is the date, in case you'd lost track. Thursday?
Yeah.
Every day is just a day now.
Every day is Groundhog Day.
On this day, Blackburn Rovers were crowned Premier League champions. That's the first anniversary. We remember Jack Walker with fondness, the man who made the dream happen, with Kenny, of course.
Who else made it happen?
Go on.
Ludek.
Oh yeah, McCluskey. Well, yeah, West Ham as a collective, yeah.
Yes.
But also on this day, May the 14th, in 1754, members of the Society of St Andrews Golfers played their first round ever at the St Andrews Links. 1754.
That's wow.
Bobby Moore played his last competitive match for Second Division Fulham.
Did he really?
At Blackburn, ironically.
Wow.
And in 1988, Laurie Sanchez scored the winning goal as Wimbledon beat Liverpool in the FA Cup final.
See, that's the thing about May, isn't it? The middle of May, you're going to find in the next week or so, we have a million anniversaries right. Because somebody's either won the league, somebody's won the league, or won the FA Cup, or won the Champions League.
We are requiring of many things to discuss.
Yeah.
So here we are on the, not quite the eve, but the eve of the eve before the Bundesliga returns. And our guest today is very well timed. We will be with him shortly. Mid-afternoon yesterday, Daily Mail Online, Serie A faces being cancelled as the Italian government demands entire squads are quarantined for 2 weeks if just one player tests positive. This changed, though, overnight. It changed in a way that it was confirmed by mid-evening that actually Serie A has got the nod and will return.
Okay.
Serie A clubs have voted to restart on June the 13th after reaching agreement over a medical protocol with the Italian government. So it looks like it's coming back. The pushback in England, pardon me, is over these documents we talked about last week, Andy, the waivers.
Yeah.
If I get ill, it's not anybody's fault but mine. Well, I think Troy Deeney and Mark Noble particularly were vocal yesterday in pointing out that they're not signing these waivers.
Nope.
Jose Mourinho, and this surprised me a little because he has been champing at the bit. He's pushed back another week. If we start, we need 4 weeks to get fit.
Wow.
Which is why we're talking June 19 now,
June 19.
as opposed to previously the 12th, which takes us on, of course, even deeper into the summer. And Jurgen Klopp is another, before you start ranting about Jose Mourinho, Jurgen Klopp is another who says we need this time. In Scotland, where Rangers' appeal against the shutdown has failed and been thrown out, Hearts are talking about a number of clubs going bust. Anne Budge, of course, we know owns Hearts, and her concerns, Andy, going forward, that by the time we restart, some of the 42 clubs, will be bust.
Absolutely.
Which led me to thinking,
there will be.
We've discussed it on this programme previously, and it's maybe worth returning to next week. There was a time when both Rangers and Celtic had agreed, or rather had persuaded, the then Football League that they wanted to play in what is now the Championship. Yeah. Remember? One or the other promoted, not both, were they jockeying for promotion. If the Scottish League collapses as dramatically as it might, from what I'm reading, I wonder if that comes back on the agenda.
Well, if the Scottish League pardon me, does collapse, Richard, then of course it will come back on the agenda because Rangers and Celtic have to play competitive football. And if they're not getting competitive football and enough people or enough competition in Scotland, they're going to have to look elsewhere. Now, where is the best place for Rangers and Celtic to go playing? In my opinion, it's always been. The one thing I think the Premier League can add to something that's been so successful to maybe make it even better, for me, would be two very strong Rangers and Celtic sides.
You say the Premier League, but that always...
of course, because I'm assuming they're both getting up.
Of course you are, and they might, and you have to expect that they would. But it is, I remind you, the Premier League of England and Wales, so it would need the Articles of Association to change. But that's not the case in the Football League. So you see, they could be co-opted straight in. I mean, Charles Green didn't do a lot for Rangers, but one of the things I thought he was right about, when you were relegated, 3-4 leagues, come south and play in the National League and then work your way through the pyramid from there. The football would have been of a better quality had Rangers done that then.
And who knows where both Rangers and Celtic might be now, if that had been the case. Because I think had Rangers gone then, I think it's inconceivable to think that Celtic wouldn't have tried to join them.
Well, they must have, you're right. So it's something perhaps to return to going forward. And I think we probably will next week. So it's a race against time, according to the Daily Mail. Managers and players voice fears over a restart. Meanwhile, in Germany, it's game on. Can I just run a number of things past? Grateful to Adrian Kajumba in the Mail for the studious work that he's done on protocol. How have the players been preparing is one small section headlined here. Been back in training since April, apparently, starting in small groups with restrictions, social distancing, and with strict hygiene requirements before stepping up to full training. It is suggested that they will stay in hotels away from family. Whilst in those hotels, the staff can't clean rooms. So you've got to clean your own room as well.
Yes. Did you not do that when you were a kid?
Yes, but these are grown men.
It doesn't matter.
Earning
Get real.
fortunes.
It's only making a bed and tidying up.
All have to wear masks outside their rooms and the dining area and not touch lift buttons, banisters or door handles with their hands, using elbows and knees instead.
Which is what we're doing now anyway.
Well, we are, testing, of course, they need testing aplenty. What are they doing dealing with infected players? Well, they're shutting down largely as best they can around and about them. All officials, around 100, have been tested this week and will be tested again on the day before matches. Referees, assistants will be driving to matches on their own on the day of the game. That's an added stress for me. They generally go overnight and they generally have a good night's sleep, referees, before taking charge of important professional matches. I can see you looking at me. I can see you there, but it's true.
They're lonely people anyway.
Teams will use multiple buses with enough space for players to sit at least 1.5 metres apart. Well, how does that translate then to what's going to happen on the football pitch?
What are you asking me for?
That was another idea floated yesterday.
What?
Tackle facing away.
Oh, great. Well done. Yeah. Well, I know lots of players that did that anyway.
Or didn't tackle at all.
Exactly.
No, that's right.
The old phrase, you couldn't tackle a good dinner.
Press conference room, mixed zone areas, all closed. Zoom-style video conferences to keep people away. That doesn't follow down the line, though, or think about those that are going to have to work as our guys are here. We're putting Bundesliga to air in the Middle East and North Africa, Australia and New Zealand, if you want to watch Angus Scott and the boys. But it doesn't think about them in their workplace, does it? And the demands that are brought forward. Listen, I pray everything goes well. I don't want any concerns or victims as a result of this. My fear is we're still
the one stat that leapt out at me from that, the numbers you're trotting out there, which are considerable.
Go on.
Was 20 coaches for each team.
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
20 coaches.
Yes, and that's coaches, not. And those the coaches that stand on the touchline in the technical area, everybody has to be masked up.
That's right.
Everybody.
And the manager can shout, but he has to pull his mask down to shout and put it back up again.
Critically, no spitting, which is something else that annoyed you early on when we.
It doesn't annoy me. It's just impossible to police.
It's impossible. Well, do you get sent off if you spit twice and get caught?
I don't know. Do we?
Well, they were saying they were going to book. So,
come on.
I don't know.
Our guest's having a little chuckle in the background. I can see him.
I do wish everybody, and I mean everybody, and that is those that are directly involved and those on the perimeter, the periphery, all the very best this weekend, because if it works, then we're in business. Our guest is a
man whose tag is, it's to do with heading.
The heading monster.
Yes, known as that.
Yes.
When he played on Merseyside, but not for the right team.
Nevertheless, he's a very good friend of ours, and we've forgiven him for that. It is, of course, I'm sure you've got it by now, Karl-Heinz Rielde. Good morning, Karl. How are you?
Good morning from Germany. Hi.
Good morning, young man.
Morgen, mein Freund.
Now, listen, Karl, we've just heard Richard go through a number of things that are having to happen for Germany to restart shortly, or this weekend. In your opinion, are all these things worth doing to get the game back on?
I mean, from a point for the Bundesliga, or for whole Germany, it was very important that we can restart. I mean, everybody, you said it in your words before. It's
Ramble.
a very, very strange thing, because playing in this conditions on a pitch, no spitting, how you want to do it? If you have an how do you say it? If you jump up in the air with two heads, so. To me, it sounds a little bit good on the paper, but in reality, it will be really, really hard to do it. But from an economy point for whole Germany, because it's very important. Because at the end of the day, maybe if we couldn't play in this moment, then we're gonna lose a lot of really good teams in the Bundesliga, and you won't see the Bundesliga anymore like it was before.
When you say lose teams, Karl, you're concerned that teams could fold because of lack of income.
That would be that what I heard from the newspaper in Germany, that at least 4, 5, 6 teams have been really near to the bankruptcy if they couldn't play these games now. Even it's a really strange thing playing in a stadium without any fans, no atmosphere, and all these kind of rules that. The German federation said now what they have to do and what they have to think about players, and it's not easy. Even the whole preparation now for a restart was not really easy. They've been packed in the house for a long time. They couldn't really train. But this problem is for all the teams. So,
how would you feel yourself, Karl, if you were involved as a player this weekend?
I mean, from my health perspective, I wouldn't be too concerned. I think they took a lot of medical advices, and I think from this point I would be quite safe to play games like this.
Has there been much dissent from players, Karl, in Germany, in the Bundesliga? We hear already in the Premier League in England 1 or 2 players voicing concerns. We're hearing that maybe a percentage of them won't want to play and won't play. Has there any players in the Bundesliga says, no, I'm not playing?
I didn't follow it too much, but also from the newspaper, what I could read is that a couple of players in different teams, they had a concern, but I think all the teams and the guys there are in charge. They say, okay, if you don't feel ready to play, then you can say it, and you don't have to play, because it's your own health if you're concerned about it.
So how would you sum up things in general, Karl? Is there anxiety about a restart, or is there more excitement about a restart?
No, it's a lot of excitement. I mean, in these days, everybody is very happy to see or to see different things. It was not easy, because in Germany it was a big discussion. Why should start the Bundesliga? All these millionaires, and they get an advantage more. But and. For example, somebody who has a family and their kids cannot go out, and the kids can't go into courts to playing football. So it was a big discussion, and a lot of people have been against a restart for the Bundesliga. But all the politics, and they understand the necessity of the pressure of the economy also for these clubs, and this was the case why they give it the okay.
I hope very much that they've made the right decision, and that it isn't driven purely by finance. I understand we're all missing live sport. Those of us that concentrate in this area, live football particularly. But if there is a cost in terms of health and well-being, then I think that's a cost too far, so I do wish them well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Richard, I think they're going to follow it for a while, and hopefully nothing will happen in the next games. But if there is coming some really bad stuff around, that maybe you have more and more corona victims, then I think there will be a call off of the Bundesliga. Oh, hopefully my battery is
Can
not
we
gone
talk?
now.
Oh no, your battery's failing. I was just about to say, can we talk a little?
I have 20% left only.
Ah, you'll be fine. We'll be out of your way before then.
Yes,
I was prepared to do it
20%
on
is
a different
plenty.
thing.
20% is plenty, Carl. Don't
Yeah,
you
if
worry.
you don't
Okay.
want to stay with us, you've now made your excuse. You
Yeah,
can go and
yes.
say, "Well, I'm really sorry." So you said I'm in Germany. Whereabouts in Germany?
Actually, I live in the south, and so south of Germany, and near Lake of Constance. So we've been really lucky in these days. I mean, we have a house and a garden, and living on the countryside is quite a privilege in these days, because all these guys. Imagine you live in London in a flat, or in Berlin in a flat. It's much harder than to say. We had a quite good life for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's absolutely. What
He's
you
got
say.
a good life, Richard. Actually, it's tough for Carl. I really feel for my friend here, because he's got that beautiful house in Germany, and of course, and I remember popping in to see him in his beautiful house in Sardinia as well, that he has.
Yeah, actually, I cannot go there. So this is called off for. We cannot
no.
go over the border for a while now.
The fruits of a glorious
Absolutely.
career. We've discussed it when you were with us previously, Carl. You talk about being the heading monster. It's something you share in common with Andy, of course. But how is it that somebody not necessarily of huge proportions, you're not that tall, how did you become so good at heading a football?
Actually, I don't know. When I was a child, I did a lot of sport. I did athletics, high jumping for a long time. So maybe I had really the ability to jump quite high, and I tried to do this in a special manner, even when I was a child. But even Andy, how tall are you? Maybe
6'3".
Yeah,
6'3", Carl, me.
So,
No, I'm about 5'11".
You see,
but
I knew you would
I
say.
think more or less it came naturally to me. I didn't do this too much time.
Where would you say you enjoyed your career the most?
I've been really lucky to have very, very good teams where I played for. Werder Bremen in the early days have been fantastic. I learned a lot from Otto Rehagel as a coach, and then the move to Lazio Rome. This was quite a special time, because in the 90s it was the place to go. All the top players from the world played in Italy. So, and Dortmund, back to Dortmund later on, fantastic. We had so much success there in these 4 years. And for last in my career, the experience in England, this was fantastic. I was always a dream when I was a child to maybe, I followed Liverpool for so long. Sorry, Andy. But this was really fantastic to play for this team.
So how different was it, England, when you finally fulfilled that dream, to Italy and Germany, who I think we like to consider to be more professional perhaps in those days, than the English were.
Yes.
Maybe it was a little bit different to play in Italy. I mean, they have been really in these days. They have been, from the medical position, they do much more than even the German football. But when I came to England, the first thing what I realized is this game in England is much more quicker than in Germany and even in Italy. So it was quite a change even for me to adapt there quite quickly. But at the end of the day, it was a really fantastic experience, because the English football is such an intensive and a passion football, maybe the most I would say in the world.
And is the dressing room different? We tend to think of ourselves as comedic and there's more fun.
A lot of comedian
perhaps.
Stories there.
Oh yes.
From this time, but this will be not the time to say that television.
But was that an enjoyable climax in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the players from Liverpool in this time when I signed for them, they've been brilliant to me. So not even to me, to all the guys from abroad. So they made it really easy for us to love this country and to love the English football.
You must have realised even back then, Carl, that the league title in Liverpool almost went hand in hand in the 80s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah,
if there was a title going, Liverpool were either finishing first or second. You must have been aware, haven't won the Premier League yet, but could you ever have conceived that, some 20 odd years later, Liverpool would only be on the verge of winning their first Premier League title this year?
Well, 10 or 15. I mean, 20,
I mean, everybody was desperate.
He's just good looking, that's why he looks so young.
Everybody was desperate, even in our times, to win it back. Liverpool was so successful in the days, Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, and so on. So, but we couldn't do this in our time. But now it's really the time. And I mean, if they can't do it this year, then they will maybe never. They can never do it. So it's on the fans and all Liverpool supporters in all over the world. They're gonna wait for this title for so long time.
You were at Wembley, were you not? Euro 96?
96.
96, were you?
Yeah.
No, actually, I was injured a year before.
Were you? Okay. Well, then that's not a line down which we can go there.
No, Bertie Fox didn't take me then. Actually,
Didn't he?
I was quite. It was a shame for me because I think it was I did my cruciate ligaments 95, and I was coming back in February. I think it was my best time ever in football, and but at the end he made already his decision to take 2-3 other strikers. So it was quite a shame for me not to go there. But at the end of the day, you can't have everything.
You have that in common with Andy as well.
Yes.
I don't think he likes Bertie Vogts.
No, I don't like Bertie Vogts. He was such a bad judge. You're right, Carl. I've every sympathy with you. You're such a bad judge.
Throw some names at us, Carl. Who would be the players that you were proudest to have competed against and with?
Richard, I didn't get this.
Players that you've played with and against. Throw some names at us that we would recognise that you've been proud to have shared a football career with and around.
I had a lot of really top names playing against. But if I would say, in the time of Italy, I had the joy to play even with Paul Gascoigne. He was in this time. He was a fantastic player. So he had some numbers in training session. Even playing against Carreca and Maradona or Van Basten, Gullit. So we had a lot of good players in this time. Lothar Matthäus, or you can name it. You know all these guys then.
I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned Paul Lambert.
Yeah, Paul Lambert, he was our top man in Dortmund, so we always doing around. So, he did a fantastic job for us, especially in this time with Borussia Dortmund, and especially in the Champions League final. He was a key player for us. So he gives the assist to my first goal. So he talks about 100 times a day there.
He's on our list, Carl, during this series to talk to.
He'll be very upset, Carl. He'll be very upset that we've talked to you before we've talked to him. He'll be furious.
Listen, last question. I've always wondered about people that played in Italy during that time. Was it a little confusing knowing the score before you kicked off?
Sorry?
Let me ask that again. I said, was it a little confusing when you played in Italy in the 90s, knowing the score before you kicked off?
That's a good joke. No. I mean,
that's a good joke.
Maybe in different teams, but in the team with Lazio Rome, I never had the experience like this.
Well spoken, Carl. Well spoken.
Yeah, very well spoken, Carl. You're very kind. Thank you for talking to us.
Thanks, Carl.
Carl, we do wish everybody well, and
Pleasure,
Germany in general this weekend.
All the best to you there in Qatar. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
We got away with it. Before 20%.
Okay.
These things happen.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl.
If our monitoring department are watching, that was not intentional.
No.
And unfortunately, they do occasionally happen, those things.
Yeah.
I do wish them well, Andy. I'm nervous for them. I really am.
I think we're all nervous for them, Richard. The whole football world is nervous. The leagues of the Premier League, the big leagues that we talk about, the Premier League, the Spanish League, the Italian leagues in particular, those three massive leagues are all fixed on Germany this weekend. They're all wondering how it's going to play out, how it's going to look, how it's going to feel, how safe is it going to be for the players and the staff and everyone around it. And I don't think there's ever been a time that I can remember in the game where we've been looking at a set of fixtures, everyone hoping that everything works around it.
To finish where we started, one cutting I didn't mention and should do from this morning's mail. Premier League clubs are planning to play the whole of next season without fans in a worst case scenario. I keep hearing this dreadful phrase, new normal, but I think that's probably going to be the case.
That wouldn't be normal. It might be new, but it certainly wouldn't be normal. No fans for a whole year. No. Listen, it might happen. We all desperately hope that's not the case. We might have to start next season, Richard, with no fans in the grounds, but how long that would continue will depend on quite a few factors.
Just another reminder, it's the Bundesliga is live with us on beIN Sports in the Middle East and North Africa, Australia and New Zealand this weekend. Dependent, of course, on the times where you are. We're here 5 days a week on beIN Sports, where you found us today. I always phrase it like that because there are different broadcast areas into which we travel, Andy. International viewers, YouTube. Tomorrow we'll check in with Angus Scott, who's going to be fronting the German football, and as well as much else that develops during the course of this day. In the meantime, whatever else you do,
stay safe, everyone.
We'll see you tomorrow.